Avery, I have some very important news for you.
Shit.
Actually, kind of embarrassing news.
What's that?
On both of our parts. We missed something very important when we were watching The Substance.
Oh, did we now?
Did you realize that the neighbor across the hallway from Demi Moore was played by no other than Gore Abrams?
No.
Paul from Hell House?
Get the no. That was him?
Because I was preparing for this episode.
He had like glasses, he had like short hair,
I know.
right?
Well, it's been like 20 years since, but
Oh
I was preparing for this episode, looking at some Hell House stuff, because it's obviously related. And I was like, Gore Abrams in The Substance? What? Hold on. It's not like featured extra. It's like, no, he plays Simon, the guy across the
He
hall.
like hits on her and then she, oh my God.
Gore Abrams.
We recognize his potential. I'm taking credit for that.
I feel embarrassed we didn't catch it in our Substance review.
I think the director probably saw our review and is like, I gotta get that guy.
Yeah, that's the guy to get.
Yeah, that's so, I'm taking some credit for it, but that's crazy. What a little Easter egg.
And I thought it was a good little segue, because today we're going to talk about a movie called Grave Encounters.
And we're right back to the well, baby.
We are back to the well. This whole channel, this whole friendship really began with Hell House. The first video on our channel is Hell House. Still our most viewed video by 10x the next most video.
I don't think it's still more than all the other videos combined, but it was for a long time.
It was for a long time.
It's
A lot of folks here are here because of our Hell House video. Now our Hell House video is on YouTube. We do have our second Hell House deep dive for free on our Patreon. The Hell House series is hard for us to cover because of copyright issues. But a movie that kept coming up in the comments of our Hell House videos was a little movie called Grave Encounters. Multiple people said, if you liked Hell House, it's similar. A lot of people said it's like Hell House. It's not as good, but of all things, it's kind of like Hell House. And I was like, okay, well that's worth noting.
We're bringing interactive entertainment to the people. You suggest it enough times, we'll probably do it.
Yeah, and so we went back and we were doing a deep dive on Grave Encounters 2011. So it came out 4 years before Hell House, which is kind of interesting.
2011?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
No,
it feels
felt
older.
earlier.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of supposed to feel like it's
Everyone looks very 2002.
Very 2000s.
Movie.
So Grave Encounters, I didn't realize it was a Canadian film.
Yeah, well, I knew that it was filmed in Canada, but that's usually kind of a given regardless.
Yeah, it wasn't like, we will get to it, but the first 5 minutes they meet the caretaker guy, and he starts talking, I'm like, oh, it's shot in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't figure it out. It's like something's trying to get out or something.
Yeah, so this is Grave Encounters, a movie about basically a parody of the Ghost Adventures show with Zach Bagans. You know, the popular reality TV show where they go and hunt ghosts in spooky locations. What if we did that, but it's a found footage horror film, and they found real ghosts?
If you're ready, it's time to have some Grave Encounters.
Avery, what did you think about this movie?
I think that's a pretty good description, is that it's a lot like Hell House, but only not quite as good.
That's what I thought, too.
I think the first half is much stronger. We'll talk about it, why. There's some points where I think it edges out Hell House in the first half. I think this is a well worth your time if you're interested in just kind of an old haunted house movie with some above average performances for the budget. I don't think this is something that'll really stick with me a long time, but yeah, pretty good.
I think we're pretty much on the same page. I'm frustrated with Grave Encounters because, like you said, about up to the half, right? So maybe even up to the kind of 2/3 point, like the first two acts. There's like really great stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
Like it's doing stuff that I never thought this movie, like I didn't know anything about this low budget horror. It was doing interesting like genre bending and parodies and doing really fun comedy stuff that actually worked.
Yeah.
Mixed with horror. It was like really elevated material.
It also showed a ton of restraint in the first
Yes,
half.
like
it does
nuance.
not get right into it. And it really kind of lets that tension build and just uses the setting, and nothing paranormal happens until like an hour.
Yeah, and it feels like Hell House in that way,
Yeah.
where it spends its time building characters, developing a real sense of place, and you're hanging out with this crew. And then the spooky stuff starts. When it goes full spooky stuff, final act, second half, it loses a lot of the luster that it built up at the beginning, which is why this is not as good as Hell House.
It's an acceptable haunted house for the last 30 minutes where you go,
Which is not bad, but it's disappointing given how strong the beginning was. We'll get more into detail on that. There's a very clear point in the deep dive where it's like, I can note this is where it fell apart.
I'm curious if we won't say it yet. I'm curious if I have the exact same one, because I think I do.
Okay, well let's get right into the deep dive then. Let's talk about Grave Encounters.
We're gonna dive on deep.
My name is Jerry Hartfield. I run a video production company here in Anaheim, California.
So we start out with the exact same scene from Hell House.
I was gonna say the Jeb Krieger sequence.
Yeah, we got Jeb Krieger, the one kind of real actor, although this guy also isn't. And man, does he look 2001.
Yeah.
They all do, but like the way like his collared shirt, it's just very, anyway.
He's a producer for reality TV television. They got 5 episodes of this show, Grave Encounters it was called, and it was doing really well. And then something mysterious and spooky happened at episode 6.
And then, of course, they got to episode 6.
And this has not been doctored in any way. This is all real.
Not a frame of this has been doctored. It hasn't been manipulated in any way. This is just raw footage. It's been edited strictly for time.
This is not a Hell House Grave Encounters comparison video. We're not doing verses, but it's gonna be really hard to not make these comparisons.
It is.
So this is kind of a secret Hell House comparison video, and I think I need to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Hell House's setup is probably the strongest bit of Hell House, is those opening 5-10 minutes for me of like establishing the dread of what happened in the basement on opening night of Hell House, right? And it sets the tone for the whole movie, and it gives you this like event you're looking forward to, what happened on opening night. This movie really kind of fast forwards through that. I don't know that it's not as well done, but it was also clearly wasn't the focus. They're basically like, man, episode 6 was sure fucked. All right, here you go. Here's the footage, and we never go back to it. We're just into the footage for the rest of the movie.
Okay, this has been assembled from some 76 plus hours of raw mini DV source footage that was shot for Lance's show.
Yeah, they decided not to dangle the hook, which I think worked because I think it contributed to the strength of kind of that first 40 minutes of you're hanging out in this asylum and you have no idea what's about to happen.
Yep.
Right? It's not like you're waiting for a specific event. And we'll talk a bit more about that, but yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I was less hooked at the 10-minute mark than I was with Hell House, certainly.
I'm your host, Lance Preston, as always, and tonight I'm very excited to take you inside one of the most terrifying locations I've ever seen.
They give us some exposition about the Collingwood Psychiatric Hospital, which is where this is set. They interview a guy who's like the local historian guy, which was totally Hell House, Blair Witch set up. It's like, interview the local guy who knows about the thing to set up the scariness.
All these little interviews they do like 4 or 5 of them. None of them were exactly what I expected. It's hard for me to call them all like particularly good, but I think I have to give it credit. None of them were super by the numbers.
None of them took me out of it. None of them I was like, oh, this is a low budget horror movie. No. They all felt like real, just odd people.
Sorry. Perfect. Thanks for coming out, man. I appreciate you making the drive. I know it's a ways.
That's okay. I'm really happy to do it. It's really going to be on TV.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like we were just kind of checking boxes and getting the exposition over with. They were all like, there's something going on. Someone actually sat down and thought about, what are we bringing to the movie by talking to this guy?
Yeah.
And so they talked to the historian, they talked to the caretaker, and then they talked to the leaf blower guy, which was my favorite. That was hilarious.
The guy that they bribed to make up that he saw a ghost, which was funny.
Yeah, I saw a ghost over here. It was really scary.
A ghost on the exterior of the building. Unbelievable.
I also really like the caretaker guy because he's kind of an old curmudgeon-y Canadian guy from Vancouver, and he's just like, yeah, they say this window's open and there's ghosts in it all the time, but I've never seen anything like that. All right, follow me. It's just like he does not give a shit.
People say they've heard the sound of rustling water coming out of this room, but I've never heard anything like that.
Where are we going next, man?
We're going to go down in the service tunnels.
It was like very deliberate. It's not just that he's a bad actor. It played for me as he's a guy who's just actively uncomfortable being on camera.
He just doesn't care.
And he's like asking, he's like, do I look at you? Do I look at the and he's like obviously ruining the show and annoying Lance, the main guy.
But on purpose. It's like filming someone's awkward grandpa and trying to get them to like spruce it up.
I've never done this before, so should I talk to you or to the camera?
Yeah, this isn't...
Well, I don't know if I believe in ghosts or spirits or nothing like that, but...
It's probably the best example of what I mean, of just, it was deliberate. They didn't just make this, okay, creepy caretaker guy, whatever, check the box and move on. They thought a little bit about, let's bring some comedy, let's have this guy be a little bit interesting.
Let's go check it out.
Okay.
That's probably a good time to talk about the comedy in general. This movie's like really well executed comedy.
Yeah.
which I didn't expect at all. It's not a comedy, but the characters kind of have banter with each other.
Make a noise or manipulate my hair.
Don't even think of asking him to do the same for me.
Well, just
You don't have any
we're a
fucking
team.
hair.
And it's also funny in the way that it's a parody of the Ghost Adventures show.
Yeah.
Right? Like watching him bribe the gardener, or watching them call cut and all laugh about how over the top they're being in the intro.
She died right in here.
Cut it. Yeah.
Okay, was that too much?
That was like a levity that I didn't expect, that they were in on the joke with us, kind of.
That's a good way to put it. They really played on the fact that those guys, 99% of us, find those guys so insufferable.
Yeah.
The guy with the gelled up hair and the leather jacket going, legend has it.
My name is Lance Preston. When I was a boy, my family moved into a house that I soon discovered was haunted. The things I encountered have stayed with me forever.
We're all just like, oh, shut up. And the fact that the movie
It's
knew
aware of that.
Yeah.
It's like harping on that.
It was great. I liked that.
This is really a paranormal hotspot unlike anything we have ever shot at before.
After we've kind of met everyone, we've set the tone, we've set the stage, they kind of start going through the asylum. Really excellent location.
Yeah.
I think this is an easy thing to discount, but when you're doing like an indie horror film like this, they probably got the location before the idea. Like they might have been like, oh, we can shoot there? What can we write around having access to this actual abandoned asylum? Because that's a very...
It's peak spooky. I mean, there's no way they brought in all these bathtubs and wheelchairs. And
No.
Those were just there.
And I know they
Certainly.
used this location in X-Files. It's been
Yeah.
used in other things.
I've toured a place like this in Michigan, and like, man, you're with a large, brightly lit tour group, and you're still looking around corners like, yeah.
Oh, and that's a huge benefit to the film is the scenes walking around and nothing's happening
Yeah.
are still scary.
And the movie knows that.
Yes.
Because it gives you a ton of sweeping the night vision camera past the hallway, and you're looking like, oh,
Yeah.
is there a ghost? Is there a ghost? And then there isn't.
But hey, guys, if you think it's dark now, wait till tonight, because none of these lights work. It'll get very dark.
They do introduce... what's his freaking name? Houston Gray.
Because of this location's massive size and scope, I've called in psychic medium Houston Gray to assist in the investigation.
Something I want to talk about kind of with the Houston Gray introduction is that something I really appreciate about the beginning of this movie, and again, it's something they lose later, is that they are doing found footage, but the medium of the found footage is constantly changing because it's the raw footage. So you get the interview with Lance that you can tell, like, this will be what's shown on the show.
Yeah.
But then you also see, once they call cut, they keep rolling. And you get to see their little reactions after and before they start shooting. So you kind of get behind the scenes mixed in with the actual show. And then they also mix in other types of shots, like
the infrared cameras.
infrared, but like the
security.
time lapse.
Yeah.
Like he says, go shoot a time lapse, and we get a little time lapse of the asylum, which they would put in the intro of the show. We just get it randomly.
Yeah.
And then like when Houston shows up, it's this dramatic reenactment of him showing up where he gets out of the car and they do this big dramatic zoom on him. So it's like you get to see all the pieces from the cutting room floor, since this was never actually an episode. You get to see all the little different ways you would actually have to make a show. And I found that fascinating. It's something Hell House doesn't do, because Hell House is just a documentary about making a haunted house. This is a TV show, so you actually have to have those different types of shots, and it's cool that we get to see it all.
This wasn't something that bothered me, but I remember you bringing it up, and I've heard other people bring it up with Late Night with the Devil. And they had that, but it didn't feel organic, and I think you said it kind of took you out of it, because it's this HD, like, dolly footage behind the scenes. It's like, well, it's the 60s talk show. Where's this coming from? And this did a good job of kind of giving you all the shots you wanted, but it all made sense.
Yeah.
I was looking for it a little more this time. There was never really the shot where, like, what is this? Who's holding this camera right now?
Because it's a
I never
ghost
noticed
show.
that. Yeah.
You would always just be rolling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you never know when there's just going to be a random door slam that you can make into the scary thing in the episode. So
and they're talking about it. The characters are very actively like get the camera on that. Like,
we never stop rolling.
Is this really going to be on TV?
Yeah, that's what we hope.
Not this part, I'm just shooting this.
Yeah, don't worry about her. She shoots everything.
So it gives you lots of good excuses for why they're rolling and lots of different types of footage.
And kind of letting the setting do the work, just because having shots of this asylum and like sweeping shots and the security camera and the handheld camera and the flashlight and then the infrared, it's effective, and it kind of lets they go over the same room 80 times, right? And even to the end, when they sweep past those bathtubs, I'm still just a little like...
Full spectral apparition.
The sun goes down. We have our gear check where they kind of talk through all the different devices they're going to be using. Again, felt very natural, very like real interview with an actual guy. All the performances, I would say throughout the whole thing felt quite genuine, which was nice to see. But early on especially, they felt like just real people having a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And contrasted with their persona on the show. Because you just get, there's that very clear flip. And for actors that I'm sure got paid $80 in a Burger King meal, there's that very clear flip that's well executed between like the tonight we're and then they just cut to like Matt, piss off, like stop messing with the cameras, and it works. Like it's
perfectly
consistent.
exemplified when they actually do the intro shot for the show where they're backlit.
Yeah,
and they all say the line at the same time. That was fantastic. Like it's so cheesy, it's so campy, but it made it so much more fun that you got both sides, that you got them in character and out of character. It kept it fresh for so much longer than if this was just found footage of like teenagers.
All right, everyone, if you're ready, it's time to have some grave encounters.
They do the lockdown. The Canadian grandpa locked them in until 6 a.m. This is where they start to really explore the asylum.
Yeah.
They start going around. And I love this, again, using the framing device of This Is a Haunted Show to get spooky footage for the found footage movie is TC, go shoot B-roll of the hallway. He's like, oh, like the artistic shots? He's like, yeah, just spooky shots of the hallway. We'll just use it in production.
Give me some B-camera shots down the hallways. Get some of that floaty hallway stuff. You
Arty
know,
shit.
like we did at the Plainview Mansion.
Arty shit.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff we can cut into.
And it's fun to hear him like talking over it.
Yeah, because they know it's going to be muted with spooky music, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the shot of a wheelchair in the middle of the hallway, and he's like, oh, this is great, Lance. You're going to love this.
He's like humming.
That's exactly what you'd be thinking. If
Yeah.
you're like a camera guy on one of these shows and you find just a spooky thing, it's like, great, this is B-roll. This is going to be like what we fill the episode with.
What the fuck is this? That's about as creepy as it gets. How the fuck we missed this?
And it's a cool way to do a bit of characterization, especially with like how the characters are feeling. Because one thing I like is that none of the characters feel like they've read the script, and I think that's something that happens with movies like this, where it's like none of them are like too scared, given that they are ghost hunters and don't really believe in ghosts. So while they're walking around, we're scared because we know we're watching a horror movie. But these characters they're talking and letting us know that they're completely fine. They're like totally irreverent until the real stuff starts happening, and then even beyond that.
Oh, whoa, yeah, awesome. You know,
You're such a dork.
listen, it's not funny.
And that's the strength of this movie,
Yeah.
is playing with that, right? Like playing with that. These are ghost hunters who don't believe in ghosts that are being confronted with actual spooky stuff they can't explain. The highlight of the movie, and I guess we're kind of getting into it, the best bits of the movie are where they have not completely accepted that these are real ghosts yet, where they're still trying to reason, trying to be cool and collected in themselves. When they know it's ghosts, when they are full fight or flight survival mode and all pretense of this being a TV show has dropped, that's when the movie falls off the rails.
Yeah, definitely.
This is the fun part. Where we're in now, where they still think they're making a reality TV show, this is gold.
Could this be residual ectoplasmic material discovered first by the Grave Encounters team?
Right around here, I think it's very appropriately timed. They stretch it just as long as they can before they finally give you that first little bit of paranormal, which is the moving wheelchair.
Which is great.
TC's off on his own, and the wheelchair moves, and the door slams.
God damn, it's cold in here. What the fuck was that?
And again, it's the kind of thing where they got it on film. The same thing with Hell House with, what is it, the clown?
Yeah.
Whereas it really confronts them with, we have this on film, right? This is something completely unexplainable, but it doesn't quite give them the time in the movie to confront and totally process that. It's you believe that they're so kind of like, okay, what does this mean? Like, this is clearly paranormal. Something obviously happened, but it could be lots of things. We don't.
It's also, it's not like so obviously paranormal.
Yeah.
That you, as a group of 5 adults who are trying to be cool, would all be like, well, it must be ghosts then.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
the reality is, a door might slam. Doors slam in haunted house shows when there aren't ghosts because of drafts,
Yeah.
because of old hinges. And what TC sees, he doesn't see the wheelchair move on its own. He then sees the door slam, which is spooky, and it scares them all, but it's also like a door slamming is not definitive proof of ghosts.
It's not definitive. It's enough where they go through the exercise of saying like, this door's really heavy. And
Right.
there's no wind in here. I don't.
It's really weird,
Yeah.
but it's not catching a ghost on camera.
Yeah.
It's enough that you can still keep up the facade of it's probably nothing. We're still making a show.
Okay, that's freaky.
Okay.
Yeah.
I accept your apologies. I accept your
I
apologies.
cannot believe that you saw that.
They hear footsteps upstairs, which was really spooky to us, the viewer. And to them, they're like, someone must know we're shooting here and is pranking us.
I'm getting
The fuck is that, guys? What the fuck is that?
Matt? Hey, Matt, is there anybody up on 4?
So they're still making rationalizations about why it's not supernatural.
I loved Houston as just the lame old guy here. Like, we'll call the cops. We have the permits here. You don't.
We have a right to be here. We have a permit, and you don't.
Okay, can you lower your fucking voice?
You guys.
I think the next major thing, they're kind of investigating the footsteps upstairs. They're using the EVF thing to try to listen to ghosts. So at this point, they're still trying to make a ghost show.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we get the hair lifting
Yes.
scene, which was an amazing scare.
Really good.
Really, really good. I actually rewound because I didn't quite catch what it was at first.
Holy shit! What the fuck was that? Did you get that?
Loved this. Her hair gets lifted by something. She feels breath on her face. Totally freaks out. And this is kind of the point where they can't explain it anymore.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I think Houston's like, I'm going to the lobby. We need to call the caretaker guy to come open the doors. Like, this is now beyond the comfort level.
Lance, I am really freaked out. I don't think I can do this.
Be a fucking professional, would you? All right, stay in character. We are onto something here. All right?
I really liked here, I took the note down that because of the setup and because of the nature of this, after the hair gets lifted and it's obviously paranormal as you're saying, Lance is literally standing there going like, please do more things. Close the door again, move my hair. Like that was just a fun little dynamic to have.
Feel free to slam it as hard as you like. So go ahead. Slam it.
And the ghosts are just like, well, no.
They never do what is asked,
Yeah,
obviously.
but it's like, in a horror movie, it's rare to have that be organic, where they're like, please do the thing again, get me.
Yeah, exactly, because they want to prove it.
Yeah, it made sense and it was fun.
It's like that clip of Zach Bagans on Ghost Adventures when he's propped up an axe above his own head and he's asking the ghost to chop his head off.
Is this the axe that you used to kill 8 people? You want to keep killing? Push this axe on my face.
Have you watched a lot of it? Because I have to admit, I haven't seen much of these real shows.
I watched a lot of the ghost shows as a kid growing up because they
Okay.
always fascinated me. And then to be honest, the Red Letter Media episodes about Ghost Adventures might
Right.
be my favorite episodes of Red Letter Media. They're so good. I find them cozy and fun, and
I think I watched 3 episodes of the Canadian knockoff one with the teenagers. It was on YTV.
I watched that one too. I know what you're talking
Mystery
about.
Hunters, I
Yeah,
want to
that's
say.
it. That's it.
And that's my whole exposure to this.
Yeah.
So
It's all the same.
I'm glad they're
kinda
doing
love
some of
it.
the tropes.
It's kind of it's the perfect marriage of reality TV show guilty pleasure,
Yeah.
but also scared. You get to a horror movie. Experiencing both of those things at once is actually really rare. There's not anything but those types of shows that scratches that itch.
Sure.
That's fun camp, but is also actually scary.
Right.
It was a very thin line, and I think this movie, the reason these first half, 2/3 is so engaging is that those ghost shows, the promise of them is exciting, but they're never gonna find a ghost.
It's kind of the WWE thing.
Yeah.
Where, I've never been able to just. There's a term for this with the WWE where you just admit, you just suspend disbelief.
Right.
There's a word for this, look, whatever. But it's the same thing with these ghost shows. You got to buy in.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to.
Well, and you can't, because if they actually found irrefutable evidence of a ghost, it wouldn't be on this show. It would be on the news.
Yeah.
So it's they're never gonna find anything. This movie gives you all the fun schlock of one of those shows, but you also know they're actually gonna find something. So it's kind of like the ultimate episode of a ghost show. Because the real ones are scripted anyways.
Yeah.
This is just like, what if we did it and we guaranteed actual ghosts? And that's why all the TV show bit is so fun and so engaging and so much, I don't know.
We've arrived at a movie pitch where we have a WWE match where the two guys get really angry and start actually beating the shit out of each other. And you know that going in.
I invoke you to make an appearance. Take on.
So they get back to the lobby, they kind of have a minute to take a breath.
Matt goes to
They
pick up
lose
the
Matt.
static cameras,
Yeah.
and then there's a spooky camera glitch. He vanishes. They look for him briefly, and this is where I think TC gets pushed down the stairs by an entity. And then they all go to the lobby, and they're like, screw this. TC's like, because Lance still wants to honor the 6 a.m. lockdown rule, because he's like that committed to getting a good show.
Call Kenny. What are you waiting
Okay.
Okay, just call him.
Jesus, I'll call him.
Thank
Kenny,
you.
all right?
Basically, him and Houston at this point are like, show's over. This is beyond what I'm comfortable with. Which I think leads to one of the greater scares of the movie. A kind of a scare.
Definitely.
When they ram down the front door and reveal that it's not outside, it's just more asylum.
This doesn't make any sense. This is the way we came in. It's just another hallway. I don't know.
We must have gotten turned around in here.
And this is a cool example of something that's kind of caught on more lately that you could describe as like architectural horror.
Yeah.
Best exemplified by I mean, there's the whole backrooms thing, if you follow that, where it's just this like endless repeating space. And I also have to call out, I'm contractually obligated because I've read it, House of Leaves.
House of Leaves.
Which that is the whole premise of this, and that was published before, but it's very niche. This really hit on that. And it's this very specific niche of horror of this building rearranging itself and you can't get out. This was very effective.
It introduces like a Lovecraftian horror element. And I think this little section is kind of the end of the good part of the movie. For me, we're getting close to where it stops being
Close.
good.
I still like the next
there's still some good stuff
10
here,
minutes.
but basically what they introduce now is not just haunting scares, but actual like existential Lovecraftian horror of there's no way out of the hospital. The front door is no longer the front door. The food has all rotten as if it's been here for weeks.
Yeah.
The sun hasn't come up.
Yeah.
And that one really got me.
This was something we talked about with what was it, 1408? That had the ticking clock.
Yeah.
And with this, the whole time, like they're getting picked up at 6 a.m. So like the whole thing is gonna be make it to 6 a.m. And then there's just this very abrupt moment at 45 minutes in where they're like, okay, so it's 7:15 a.m. He hasn't come, the front door is gone, and the sun's not up.
I checked my cell phone, and it's 1:12 p.m. I don't think that's right, but I guess it can't be right.
And that was great. That
It's
was
like it's like a sci-fi. It's like an episode of Star Trek or
Absolutely.
something. And that was scarier than any ghost. The idea that you get stuck in this place, because I think what happens soon after this is like the ghost knocks over the light.
Yeah.
So now they are literally eternal night, no front door, and they're living only on camera batteries, and there's no way out, and they don't have any food. That is scarier than a haunting. And it's not the horror I expected from this movie, which is why it worked so well.
I thought it worked really well here, but it is an unfortunate example of the movie kind of shot its wad because now there's nothing to do. And that's why the next 30 minutes is kind of bad, is because you've now removed all agency from these characters.
Yes.
Like, it's very scary, and I'm not saying they should have, but if they cut to black here, you're like, wow, what a good episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
But it sort of hurts the structure of the movie, because at this point is where everything goes downhill, because you've removed all agency from the characters.
Yeah.
Because now they've realized they have no food, they cannot get out, the hospital's rearranging itself around them, they're split up, like they're just done. And the movie never really finds a coherent, like I talk about this a lot with horror movies, you kind of need a thing for the characters to at least have in their head they can go do. And there's like a little bit, like not really. And that's where it kind of stops being scary, because there's nothing. Now they just run around in circles and scream until the end of the movie, pretty much.
I think of the Blair Witch too. There's a point in the Blair Witch where they are like lost and trying to find a way back, and they're navigating, they're using maps, they're finding discoveries. Then there's a point in the Blair Witch where one of them goes missing, they run around the woods screaming their name, and then eventually it ends in a climax. But that was I think very intentionally and very thoughtfully done in like the very, very end. So that most of the movie, we're at least pretending that they might get out. They're trying to get out. It's exactly what you said. They did this too early.
We're
They
like an
didn't-
Hour.
They didn't do it when the Blair Witch did it.
Yeah.
They didn't do it when Hell House did it. Because keep in mind, Hell House, similarly, their big, crazy, all hope is lost is only really the final night, which is the very end of the movie. So it's like you said, they blew their load too early. And I wrote a note, literally at this point, the lights break. They go running, looking for Mike? Matt. They go looking for Matt. They're screaming his name, running around. They hear a big bang. And this is the scene where the bed flies up in the air and slams on the ground. And I wrote, this is where the movie stopped being good. Was the bed flying in the air?
We're very close because where I had it, I think the next scene or the scene before is where they find the ghost lady.
Ghost lady's the next scene.
As soon as she turns around.
So we picked the right spot, and I literally wrote, this is where the movie should have ended, or if this was a short film, this would be the perfect place to stop it. Unfortunately, it doesn't. There's 30 more minutes of the movie, and it does just go into run around screaming in the dark and seeing spooky monster with the long faces.
And it's okay.
It's fine.
It's okay.
It's not like, it's not bad, insultingly bad. It's just like, it's the standard fare you'd expect from a low budget horror movie on streaming that you know nothing about would be all this crap.
And it's sort of, it's almost a shame because I liked that they showed restraint and didn't do any of this stuff in the first hour. Now they just kind of cram it together. It's all this stuff that it loses effectiveness. I mean, you have what might be a really effective scene where Sasha wakes up and there's like the word hello carved in her back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, that's like kind of crazy. And then they just, oh, we got to run over here and scream now. It's like, they just don't bring it up. And it's like,
they do so many spooky things in such a small amount of time that it like loses all
without
the nuance.
Without like a breath in between.
Yeah.
Because they're just running to a room, a thing happens, then they run to the next room, and then a thing happens, and then it's only in kind of the last 10 minutes when we get to just Lance on his own that you get enough of a breath for it to start being scary again for me.
And it's not that there are individual scares that are effective. Like I noted the arms coming out of the ceiling when they wake up.
It looked cool.
That was spooky.
Yeah.
The bathtub blood girl was very spooky. The arm coming through the window, honestly, I found quite effective. It totally surprised me.
I think when Houston gets got, he gets like levitated and is getting choked. And it's
That looked a little silly to me.
Yeah.
It was when he got like Palpatine lightninged across the room.
Yeah.
But it's so much shit. And then there's like silly stuff mixed in. Like they get wristbands, hospital wristbands.
Yeah, when they
with their
find Matt, and it's the
name on it.
exact same scene as Paul in Hell House, except just worse.
But he's like doing like I'm the Joker baby voice.
Progress is slow, but the patient is responding to treatment.
This guy's out of his mind. He's like high or something. He's talking all kinds. He's insane.
PC, shut up.
There's just so much stuff. It lost all the nuance of this first half of the film. And the worst part is they're not pretending it's a ghost show anymore. Because now it's fight or flight. Now they're in survival mode.
Like Lance is trying a little bit, but like not really.
What do you mean, somewhat?
Are you kidding me? Fucking oh shit, we're not making a fucking TV show.
I'm just documenting stuff, okay? People are gonna want to see this.
Mostly running around screaming, and you no longer have the scenes in between of them like, we just discovered a because it's too scary for the characters.
That's exactly, they need the beats, they need the breath, and like that's why the first little bit, you know, after TC gets thrown down the stairs and they're in the lobby and they're arguing about it, and Lance is like, no, we got that on film, right? They need that.
Grab your camera, Sash, grab your camera.
For what?
Listen, if we're gonna go and do this, then we might as well film everything.
That's the pocket. That's the sweet spot.
Exactly.
And they didn't know how to make it last long enough.
It's like the characters are refusing to let it happen. Because you're right, it's too scary, it wouldn't make any sense. But it's like, I liked that they at least tried. It just didn't work. Of Lance being like, no guys, we gotta record this. But they're all just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's like, we're going to die.
Throw it away.
Yeah.
Can't break down the door, TC.
Just watch.
No, we're gonna cause damage to the property. We're gonna be liable for it, all right?
That's why this movie is not, I think, like a cult classic.
Yeah.
Is this last bit, because the beginning was so good. And it was so interesting what they were doing with the framing device and everything, and it's all gone in service of spooky scares. I did read in the trivia on IMDb, apparently this was the director's intention, was they wanted to contrast movies like The Blair Witch, which showed nothing, by showing us the actual demons in frame. That was their objective.
Okay.
And I mean,
I appreciate it as an objective.
I appreciate, like, they wanted to mix it up. They didn't just want to fully copy Blair Witch, because it's basically a copy of Blair Witch, this movie, but done in a different setting. But it's tough to watch knowing they had the skill to do the restrained horror, because we saw it. They were doing it, and they dropped it. And it's maybe a personal taste thing, but I think both you and I don't. We like the horror where there's like a little thing in the camera in the back, and you're like, what's that? As opposed to long face, spooky eyes running at the camera.
Yeah, right? I mean, I do want to give them some credit that some of it worked and would have worked.
Yeah, some of it's scary as an isolated scene.
But yeah, it doesn't mean anything in the context of the characters, because the characters aren't characters at this point. And they try a little bit. I like the moment where they're trying to get to the roof, and that's at least something for them to be doing.
Yeah.
And they get there, and it's again your architectural horror, where now there's just no door to the roof.
Concrete.
But it does kind of have a similar effect, again, that I talked about with 1408, where it's like, that's not going to work. Like, there's no part of me that thinks they're going to get to the roof and escape.
The ghosts are like, shoot, we forgot to close the roof.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's the exact same feeling I had when he climbs out the window in 1408, and it's like, oh, the windows are, oh, he's dead. There's zero chance any of these people are escaping.
I also find myself getting frustrated. The Blair Witch is kind of notorious. There's like a 20-minute sequence in The Blair Witch where Mike is lost, and they're just walking around the woods, or Josh. Josh is lost?
I think it's Josh.
Josh is lost.
Yeah.
And they're just walking around the woods yelling, Josh.
Josh! Josh!
Josh! Josh! Josh! Josh!
It starts to become like, okay, Josh is dead. Yeah. Like, I'm mad at you for not knowing Josh is dead. It definitely got there with Matt.
Oh my god, yeah.
Matt, you in here?
And then he wasn't dead, and I was like, "What the fuck? Why isn't he dead?"
Yeah, he almost showed up too late because that was like a good intermediate horror. It's like, oh, and Hell House again does this better because they don't find him with 4 minutes left after they've already been attacked by 8 ghosts. But like when they find Matt and he's like himself but not quite, and kind of, it's like, well, we already saw like all this other shit. Like we don't even have time to talk to him.
It's like, I don't care that he's here. We're all dead. I don't care that he's in a hospital gown talking about the doctor. Like,
he's like, I'm better now. It's like, oh, okay.
He'll help you too.
It's like we're literally being assaulted by ghost hands. So sorry, like I don't.
Your window's up.
You're not the. And then he kills himself. And it's like, okay. So we run through 20 minutes of a haunted house, and then we end up down in the tunnels.
The tunnels is the next clear thing that's not just running around the halls.
And I think this pulls it back a little.
It does.
This was at least above average for horror.
Yeah.
Sasha disappears. Well, she throws up some blood and disappears in a puff of smoke.
It was like old school Scooby-Doo,
Yeah.
but in a way that I kind of liked.
It was fun. Like we had to get rid of her.
Just the smoke machine, and then she's gone. It was almost like a comedy beat.
We get a few minutes here with just Lance that I thought was effective. I think he's the best actor. I think once we get some moments of him talking to the camera and like not actively being chased by something is when we kind of pull it back and start having an effective horror movie again.
He eats some rats.
He does eat a rat, which
it's pretty gross.
It felt out of place, but like it was effective.
Shockingly good effects.
Yeah. It was a real rat.
He didn't actually eat a rat.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
It was a good little final bit. A really effective scare that felt in line with the beginning was he does his little recorder. He asks a question when he listens back to it. There's just screams on the recorder that he can't hear in real life. That's a very spooky idea.
What do you want from me?
I literally think, from an editing perspective, you just cut, like, from the moment the bed goes flying or the ghost woman around then to this, you shorten that to like 5 minutes, like one sequence where they run through the hospital. This movie is like way better.
Yeah, you can find some way to reframe it where it's like maybe even at the end, kind of like they did with the stabbing, and we keep talking about Hell House, but like you find some way to like, okay, here's the other footage we got, and then you start showing these like kind of quickly cut together, can't really see it clips of the ghosts.
Or you do a longer Jeb Krieger sequence at the beginning, and you just don't need as much filler. Like there's lots.
I don't know how long I was sleeping, but there's the door. You gotta see it.
The very finale is pretty stupid.
Yeah.
He finds the lobotomy doctor who they teased in the beginning archival footage. He's like,
which I expected him to come up like a lot earlier.
Yeah, he's like a famous doctor who did like thousands of lobotomies, and his ghost is there, and there's like a satanic worship.
It really kind of like mixed a lot of stuff.
It's like, if it's the ghost of a doctor who lobotomized thousands of people, he doesn't also need to worship the devil? Like, that's bad enough. Like, he can just be an evil doctor.
Yeah, they kind of mixed it up there. I think maybe it was just like the sets they had or the props they had. They just kind of crammed in there. I don't know.
I also think this presumably came out after Wreck.
Which I haven't seen.
Yeah, which is a fantastic found footage horror, and the finale is all about discovering the true origin of all the spookiness.
Right.
And it's like the scariest 5-minute sequence you've ever seen.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of what they did here, but this didn't work. And then it ends in another spooky long-faced ghost scene.
Yeah, it was almost like a Treehouse of Horror bit.
Yeah, it was.
Just walked in and it's like, oh, the doctor worships the devil and is a ghost and is lobotomized, and there's also like they did like some weird, they start showing like the patients cut open, which is, I don't know.
It's just a silly ending. They didn't know what to do after 2/3 is kind of my, like the tunnels was somewhat engaging, but in general, this was like a brilliant parody of the Ghost Adventure show with an actual scary movie behind it. And then they're like, shoot, we gotta shoot 20 minutes more. How much CGI budget do we have?
Well, it's interesting that really reframed it, you just saying that the director decided, like, no, we're gonna show it. You know, you're gonna see it all. Because I think that didn't work.
No.
But it at least makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why the best horror movies aren't the ones with the most monsters. That's not how that, I mean, Until Dawn, good counterexample, but
yeah.
Like, that's, like, Jaws is the scariest movie ever, and there's like 8 seconds of shark, right? Like, there's a principle at work here that you gotta know what you're doing to navigate around.
The crazy part is there's scenes in this that are scarier if you just do less.
Yeah.
Like, the ghost woman, when she turns and does the spooky face yell, is not scary. It's like an eye roll stupid. But the scene before it, where they're talking and a silhouette of a woman runs across the hall.
Oh, yeah.
If that's all they showed,
and then there's no one when they go around the
no
corner.
one, that's like a freaking hereditary level scare.
If we were to find it, he would, the range of the walkie-talkie.
Holy shit! That was Matt! That was Matt!
Yeah.
So it's like they had all the material to do those types of scares. They just felt they needed to go further, which is unfortunate, I think, for the final product. It's their vision. I'm happy for them. They made a great movie, given what this is. But it's just like you can see how it was so close to greatness almost.
It's such a funny thing that this long-faced ghost is a trope, and there's a reason why it's not a good one and why no one ever looks forward to the long-faced ghost, and it's because it is such a tension killer.
Yeah.
And part of it is because if you have to have more scenes after that with the characters, and this is the problem this runs into. It happens like 4 times where it's like they're in the room and the ghost goes, bleh, and then it's like 2 seconds, they just run away and they just get away.
Yeah, because
they're just like, oh man, sure didn't like that. It's like, okay, fair enough.
It's like, can they hurt you?
Yeah, it
or
happened
they
like 3
just
more
like
times.
yell at you? I don't get the threat.
They do it again where there's the good moment where he finds the tongue on the floor and that's
Yeah.
creepy, and he looks up and it's a guy who goes, bleh. And you're like, okay. And then he just chases them like a video game NPC for like 20 minutes. And it's
But
just like,
again, in and amongst that scene, there was really scary.
Yeah.
Like finding a tongue and then seeing fresh droplets of blood,
Yeah.
implying there's something above you. Terrifying.
Yeah.
And then you look up and it's a PS2 enemy.
Yeah.
So it's so close. This movie I did see described online as a bit of a cult classic, and I honestly think it's good enough I can see why it would have a cult following. Like, I would rewatch the first 2/3 of this very happily, or have it on in the background. I think it's a really solid movie. There's plenty of terrible found footage. This is way above the pile, right?
Yeah.
I think we're only frustrated because it almost achieved like Hell House level, like going way above expectations.
well, it's like this movie's very much a roller coaster where it goes like, oh, and then it kind of goes, and you're like, all right, well.
At least it was fun going up.
Yeah, this is like before you knew what was about to happen on the way down, you were thrilled.
You were.
Thanks very much, man.
All
We'll
right.
see you at 6 a.m.
Okay, 6 a.m. sharp. Good luck.
I think we should go into scoring.
Let's do it.
Critical score, Avery, give it to us.
I'm giving this a C+.
Is that what you gave Hell House?
That is what I gave Hell House, and I on principle wanted to give this a little bit lower because I don't know. There's something telling me it was a bit weaker, but I couldn't bump it down to a C. I don't think it deserves that because I think the good parts were so darn good, and I really respect the fact that I need to rewatch Hell House to be sure. I think that kind of 10 to minute to an hour mark of this I prefer. I need to check.
I think that's reasonable.
I think I liked it better, and that's what was holding me back. And I liked some of the framing. I liked some of the ideas behind it a lot, and that's what I'm going to take away from this. If I just take in my head and get my big editor's scissors, and the last 40 is just there was a ghost to the end, and then I think about this movie in that way, I actually really like it, and I got a lot out of watching it.
I can give you a sanity check.
Yeah.
Up until the part we said it starts getting bad, I thought and wrote, I think this might be better than Hell House.
Yeah.
So it's a valid take.
Yeah, so, and I think that I think a lot of people would enjoy this. That's something I try to consider with Critical is like, is this just appealing to me as the weird horror nerd with this show? And I don't think so. I think a lot of people would get something out of this. This is an effective horror movie pretty globally in a lot of ways. And the scares there was good ideas behind it. So it's a C+. You lose a lot of grades for fumbling your ending, but that's fine. Personally, this is going to be a B-. It's going to go a little bit up, not a lot up. I think that although I will be thinking about the good setup, that doesn't make for a great rewatch. And I think going back into a rewatch knowing that like the roller coaster's going nowhere, really kind of kills it. And I can think and I can talk about some of the things that did right. I'm not going to turn this on just to watch Houston be weird. And I don't know. So, but I think I liked it better than the quality of it. I really appreciate being able to talk about it. So B+ or B-, personal.
Okay. Critically, I'm going to give this movie a B. It's basically the collective average of, I think the first 2/3 are like A-level found footage horror. It'd be hard pressed to do better found footage horror with the budget they have in particular. Like great performances, excellent setup, great location. Everything about it couldn't have been more engaging to me as a found footage horror setup. It's great. Totally fumbled the ending. So I'm going to give it a B. I think it's really solid. I think if you're the type of person that likes these types of movies, you'll enjoy it, and it's good. It's just not great because it was so spotty. And personally, I'm going to give it a B+. I don't remember what I gave Hell House, but I just like these types of movies. It's a guilty pleasure. I love watching found footage horror, and when you find one that's a bit of a cut above, it's such a treat. So even though I didn't love the ending, I was more engaged by the first 2/3 of this movie than I have been by a lot of other movies all the way through recently. So I'm gonna give it its roses and go up to a B+ personally.
I did see online there was a sequel.
I did see.
And I'm curious, how interested are you to watch that?
I just think it's probably terrible. I did read, so apparently the Vicious Brothers wrote it, but didn't direct it.
I don't know, that might be lateral.
The trend for these types of movies is that it should be awful.
Yeah.
But there's let us know. If you've seen it and it's worth checking out, let us know. Maybe we'll cover it. I'm not sure this has the same kind of diehard following Hell House has.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to be good.
It's not going to be a Phantasm 2.
I'll tell you, it's not going to be Phantasm 2. I'll tell you that the long-faced monster is literally on the cover of Grave Encounters 2, and that does give me pause.
Yeah.
Whereas the cover of this one is supposed to look like an episode of Ghost Adventures, which is perfect. So there's some red flags, but maybe in the future we revisit this franchise. We do have to do MVPs. Let's not forget that.
I would never forget MVPs. Most important segment on our show. We got to recognize the people who worked hard on this year project.
The most valuable person who...
Read the subtitle. You read it. Your job. This is one where I think you're kind of stretching by giving it to anyone except Sean Rogerson as Lance. I mean, I'm going to give it to him, I guess. I think he was the best actor, the best performance. He had half the lines in the movie. I think he did really well with what was given and elevated a lot of the stuff. He was the driving force, being the only person who wanted to keep filming and stay in the asylum. So there was kind of a lot of weight on him to like reasonably be that counterpoint. And I think he did great. He showed a lot of range. I think I would have suffered without him. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Bob Rathie as Kenny the caretaker, just because that was probably my favorite moments on screen.
It was good.
It was just so weird but fun. Like it fit, but it was just so like just tickled my brain.
Like an actual old man, like on camera, like not an actor. It was the vibe.
That really set the mood well, and I was hoping he was going to show back up because they spend the whole middle part of the movie waiting for him to show back up. I didn't know if it was going to be he was the ghost or, you know what? One thing I want to say is I'm really happy they didn't do is the Shutter Island twist, that they're all just patients in a real asylum. Really happy they didn't.
That would have been bad.
That would have sucked. Thank you for not doing that movie.
Thanks Vicious Brothers.
Anyway, Bob Rathie, honorable mention, but Sean Rogerson's my MVP.
I also think it's a strong performance within the wrapper of having to be a parody of Zach Bagans.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like baggage there, and it would have been easy to make it too hammy and for it to not feel like a real guy because you're trying to be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
But he straddled that line of it's like, you know it's a Zach Bagans parody, you get what he's doing, but he also felt like an actual human being. And that's I think you can take for granted how hard that is to do as an actor.
He showed a lot of range between, he was an effective Zach Bagans douche guy, he was an effective cynical TV show guy trying to make money, he was an effective just like one of the boys with his boys, and then just as like the final girl.
Yeah.
He was good as that.
And as the guy that has to accept that ghosts are real, as someone who's lied about it for so long and actually deal with that, he did a good job. I think that's a great shout. I'm going to go even more basic. I'm giving my MVP to the Vicious Brothers.
Okay.
They're credited together on IMDb as well as separately, so they count
Maybe
as
it's just one guy named Vicious Brothers.
Maybe. Let's assume that.
Okay.
The Vicious Brothers get my MVP, and it really is just because I think the writing and directing on this are so much a cut above what you would expect when you pick up this DVD at Rogers. It's like really well done.
Yeah.
I actually give them bonus points, knowing they were trying to make the demons on screen a lot in the final act. It failed, but it tells me that it wasn't unintentionally screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, they've showed that they could do what the first 2/3 were. They decided not to stick with it, but they have the skill set for it, and the only reason we're talking about this movie is because of the quality of the beginning.
For sure.
And that's honestly a testament to the writing and the direction, so I'm going to give it to the Vicious Brothers.
We will be in search of what's become known as the ghost of the Collingwood Psychiatric Hospital. Cut.
Nice.
Yeah?
Side note, is there a more Canadian name than Bob Rathie? That's hilarious.
If his name was Gord, it would be more Canadian.
I'll bet he's got a cousin Gord.
He's got a cousin Gord for sure. Well, that's been Grave Encounters. A little return into our roots of found footage horror about a haunted place.
We'll start the poll, whether you want to see Phantasm 3, Hell House 3, or Grave Encounters 2 the most. We know you're all very invested and bought in, so we'll see.
Thank you for watching. This is The Green Corner. Check out our Patreon. Like I said, our Hell House episode's still on YouTube, but we don't make any money on it because of copyright issues. So our Hell House 2 Deep Dive is available 100% for free in its totality on our Patreon. I think it's a really great episode and will kind of serve as a nice little companion piece for this because we talked about Hell House a lot.
It's our roots, baby. Back at the well.
Roots. All right. Thank you for watching. And until next time, goodbye.